Hi, everybody. Chat. Garrick's here. We're having fun. We're talking about schmorfs. Before we do that, quick sponsor shout out. Stoneage and Small Town Xotics will be on the auction next week. So check them out. Message them ahead of time if you want to ensure you get your lots instead of competing for them live. Lots of good stuff on Shane's Husbandry Pro Store. BNS Reptilia will be at a show this weekend, the Keystone State show, something like that, on Saturday. It's a Saturday only show. Then Powerhouse Pythons is our Go for Cocoa. There's too many cocoa brands. I should know that. Yeah, yes, it is Go for Cocoa. Vendor for the Pacific Northwest. Check him out for cocoa, Stimson's pythons, leopard geckos, or ball pythons. He's doing it all these days. And Bravo Zulu. Check out her website, bravozulupythons.com. Lots of het puzzle stuff, and we love puzzle around here. We're very into that. Thank you, Bravo Zulu. And last, Gray Family Snakes, our favorite VPI DG pied breeders from Alabama. We love them. I don't think there are new clutches up yet, but when it is, I will let you know. And then you can buy all of them. That's our goal, right? So thank you to all of our sponsors. And then very quickly, Flynn Reptiles had a fire while they were at St. Louis and ARBC. And so they have a charity auction running on Facebook right now in the charity auction group, and a GoFundMe, which is all linked down below in the show notes. So if you need a snake, or you want to donate a snake, or you want to just donate some money, I think that is everybody's worst nightmare, is a fire while you're out of state. Right, Garrick?
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I feel horrible every time I hear about it. And it could happen to anybody. It's just one of those things. You're dealing with a lot of stuff with electricity and heat and power, and it can just happen.
And you have two buildings partially for that reason, right?
Yeah, probably about 10 or 11 years ago, I decided that the best form of insurance that I could give to myself, instead of buying live animal insurance, which we did for a year or two, and it was incredibly expensive. We figured it would be just cheaper to do another facility entirely. It's a much smaller one, but I keep about probably half of my breeders at the smaller place, and we broke it up into two different locations, mostly to protect ourselves in case something like that would happen, so that I wouldn't be completely out of business, and everything I've worked for decades to do wouldn't all just be gone in a blink of an eye.
Do you split it up so a project is protected, half of it is in one side and half of it is the other side, or do you put one, how did you decide to protect it?
My smaller place has most of my highest end stuff. That's probably the more critical place overall. But I do have, all the babies that are available, and, everything is over at my main facility. So if God forbid my higher end collection would be destroyed, I would have all of the babies over at the other place that I could grow them up and start the projects again. But, it's too hard having one project broken up into two different locations, because you need a male from one location to breed with some females from another, and taking them back and forth and stuff is just hard to do. So I do have pretty much everything set up in one location or the other.
Is it all on the same property, or is it
No, different properties.
Okay. Yeah. I live in Tornado Alley now, and I'm if we have snakes up in the trees, snakes in the neighborhood, I don't think it would be very good at all, because I can't really mitigate for that. So I'm if you have two, the tornado is not that likely to hit.
Not too likely. It's a few miles apart from each other. So it's not too likely, but we don't really get a lot of tornadoes up here, but we do get some. Not like you do, but we get a few.
All right, we got questions coming in. Lisa has a question, and I'm just I have questions, but I'll Garrick's a source of wisdom, a fount, if you will. So we'll just.
I like to think of myself like that as well. So
Lisa asks, what's your thoughts on one male to multiple females, and does that lower fertility rates in your experience?
I don't think it lowers fertility rates. A good male can breed a lot of females. I don't use an ultrasound here. If I did, I could probably breed one male to 10 females pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year I think the most I ever got was 7 clutches out of one male. But that male wasn't even a year old when he fathered all those clutches. He was just a fantastic animal, and he started breeding at about 7, maybe 8 months of age, and he never missed a meal, and he's still doing awesome to this day. You can, I just figured as long as a male breeds a female about 1 time a month, roughly, that's really all that you can do to ensure a fairly high fertility. I think one male to multiple females is completely fine. And with a lot of my projects, I am only breeding one male to 1 or 2 females because I'm kind of trying to be very particular about what I produce. So, and not necessarily just go for volume. So I may have like one specific clown combo male that I'll breed to one specific clown combo female because I'm trying to hit on a specific combo of babies. And I won't necessarily need that male for other females because it just what the outcome wouldn't be what I'm going for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I generally would recommend like 1 male to 3 females, or maybe 4 is pretty safe. And for new people that are starting off, I usually recommend, like, if you want to do a breeding group, it's better to get 2 males and 6 females than 1 male and, like, say 5 females. Because what happens if that 1 male just decides it doesn't want to breed that for that particular year? I'll have males that some years breed everything and other years just don't seem to have any interest in it. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. I've got a couple males right now that bred fantastic for me last year, and I put them in with a couple females already this fall, and they don't seem to have any interest. So it's just, it's always good to have a backup male. That's the main thing. I don't think I'd ever start a breeding project with just having 1 male and a big group of females.
Right. It's almost like in my collection, there's almost like a train of males, like progressively better males growing up behind them with the same like recessives or whatever, but different combos. So, last year's male could run back up, but he could also be the fluffer. And then you just sort of, there's enough residual males that it's fine, but you're always still like moving forward.
Yeah. And I always keep the previous generation male. I always keep him until I know for sure that I don't need him. Once the new male is breeding really well and I know things are going well, then I maybe will consider selling the previous male. But yeah, it's always nice to have that backup sitting around, because the worst thing is if you really want to work on a project and you got 1 male that you're relying on and he doesn't do anything, you're not going to get what you want, so you could have 5 females sitting there doing nothing for the whole year. Whereas if you had a second male, even if the second male isn't quite as good as the first male, you're at least going to be able to produce some nice stuff with those females instead of having them sit there with having 5 females with a male that doesn't want to breed any of them. That's kind of the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we got a super chat. Thanks, Andrew. So you're a non-ultrasound, or is that just because it doesn't fit your workflow with your room and you just know you're going to have 1 male to 4 females, so it doesn't matter, you pair them once a month? That's
pretty much it. But if my collection was smaller, I think I would use an ultrasound, just because knowing the follicle size, it definitely doesn't help them give any more, it's no more likely that they're going to produce just because the follicle size. But it's nice because you might be putting, with me, like going through and rotating my males all the time, I have so many. I mean, I'm breeding, 175 to 200 males a year to 600 females in a year where I'm breeding everything, which is not right now, but that's a lot of time to get all those males in with all those females and to rotate them through. And if you check for follicles and you don't see any follicles in there, like halfway through the breeding season, you still don't see any follicles, well, then maybe just skip that one, and that saves you time in the long run, because you're not wasting time by putting that male in there. The main reason why I don't do it is I just have too many. It would take I have so much time to check all of those females. Like I said, about 600 females. So to go through and check for follicles on all those once a month or whatever would be an incredible amount of time. And I can barely get my work done the way it is right now. I can't imagine doing that. If at some point in the future I decide to cut my collection way back and just focus on some specific projects and maybe get down to 200 females, I think I probably would ultrasound that. I could see some definite uses for it, especially if I have like one really high-end male that I want to father as many clutches as possible. Then I could definitely see a use for ultrasound.
Yeah, I just noticed with an ultrasound, and I don't have that big of a collection, maybe 100 females or something, like it's just less work on the male. So I could lock him for 8 months in a row.
Yeah.
And she only started building, 3 months ago or whatever. So I didn't need to do those first 5 months of locking, So he just has more to give everything. Thank you, Lisa, for the super chat. I appreciate it. I still don't have a soundboard though. Sorry. Maybe next time. So speaking of like reducing the number of females, there's lots of, because the market's down a little bit, people are like, should I hold females and breed them, like maybe feed them less, don't pair them, with the expectation of the market getting better in a couple of years because they'll be quite large by then and ready to produce follicles? Or is it better to sell off, weaker genetic females and just grow up younger females to breed when the market is a little bit stronger? Like, how do you like parse like reducing while increasing genetic power in your mind?
Well, like in last year, I knew that I couldn't produce what I had in previous years, or I would have run out of space very quickly. And so for 2023, so I had a lot of females just sitting in racks that I didn't even try to breed. At my main facility, I think I probably only bred 50 or 60 females there. So I had whole racks of females that I didn't have a male in with a single one, where I know I could have gotten clutches out of all of them, but I don't want to produce snakes that I can't sell. So I just decided not to. So with mine, I do have a lot of breeder females for sale, and males for that matter, but they're only animals where I feel like in a year from now or 2 years from now, when I want to start breeding, hopefully by then the market will rebound and I could start increasing production. The ones that I have for sale right now are ones that I maybe don't necessarily need. Like I just decided I didn't need as many albinos as what I have, or didn't need as many, I don't know, pastel super stripes or whatever as what I have right now. So I still have some of them. It's not like I'm selling off whole projects, but I just don't need that many. So, and I also have to move some animals out every year because I have a new group of subadult females that are coming up to breeding. And everybody that knows me knows that I'm a ball python hoarder, and I hold back. I just can't help myself. I hold back. So most years I end up holding back between 175 and 200 snakes, which 2/3 of that is most likely going to be females. So that means that I've got 100 females every year that will eventually get to breeding size, and I don't have enough space for them to just keep adding on. Like I don't want 1,000 females in my collection or anything like that. So I'd actually like to get down to probably only having about 400. And then, I can maybe choose to breed certain animals in a specific year and leave some not being bred. But yeah, it's hard. I take it on a snake by snake situation where if I say like I've got, 40 albino combo females, which I think I do, I'm not sure, but anyway, if I decide, okay, well, I'm only going to keep 25 of those, I can look through their records and see which ones are the most consistent breeders that lay the best clutches with a high fertility rate. And I would keep those. Then I'd maybe sell the ones that are a little less consistent for me. And just because they weren't consistent for me, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be inconsistent for other people, because they'll be changing environments. Maybe they're going to a smaller collection where the breeder can focus on each individual snake a little bit more and feed them whatever they want to eat a little bit more, and they would have more success. So, I'm a big believer, if a female isn't breeding for you, just change her spot in the rack, move her to a different rack, move her to a different location altogether, and things could turn around completely. So.
Right. Thank you, Chris G. Gonzalez, Black Snow Reptiles, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Yes, I am modest, and I don't like sticking out my hand for money. You can do that for me in the chat. Thank you, Sean. So you do a little bit of both, like, but it's mostly like a fecundity based scale. Do you ever like think of getting out of a project completely because you're like, like the ROI just isn't making sense anymore? Or do you think all projects have an ROI that can make sense with like the right male taken to them?
I think like albinos have kind of, like they were big 20 years ago and they're maybe not the most popular things now. But I think that there are some specific combinations of them that look awesome. And so I'm trying to like fine tune all my projects. Like I'm kind of a completist. Like I like to have a little bit of everything. And when I first started breeding ball pythons, this is back in, 23 years ago now, I wanted to have like 2 racks of ball pythons with basically one of every morph in there. And that was going to be it for me. And then things just kind of snowballed and got out of control. And now I've got, all my, whole business is ball pythons now pretty much. But I think all projects have potential. It's just finding that right combination of genes to get into the project. And so like albinos, I don't know why I keep coming back to those, but it's one that comes back to me. For a while I was working on making like albino spiders, albino pinstripes and things like that. And I found those weren't really great sellers because if people buy an albino, they want something with a really high contrast between a bright white and a bright or a deep yellow, and something that's going to keep that contrast as an adult. So over the years, I've kind of fine-tuned the albino portion of my collection to producing mostly stuff that have really insane color and pattern contrast. So, and I'll probably always have some. I'm not going to have, I don't need to make 1,000 of them or anything, but there's certain albino combos that I like, and I'm going to keep making those kind of regardless how well they sell or, what the value is. I mean, I know most of the albinos that I'm producing, like my top end ones are probably only $600 or $700. And it's fine with me. I mean, if you're making $600 on a snake, you're doing pretty well if you figure out per clutch and it ends up being decent. So, and it's at an affordable level that somebody could buy if they just like the looks of it. The way I look at it is a pretty snake is a pretty snake no matter what the value is. And a pretty snake is always going to sell better than an ugly snake. So I just want to produce pretty snakes.
All right, this one might be a little personal, but do you know your cost of production per head?
I don't actually. I could probably figure it out. It would take me a lot of time and effort to figure that out. I'm going to assume it's probably somewhere, probably about $75, maybe even more.
Because you have one employee, not.
I have one guy that works close to full time.
Okay.
And I have a couple people that work part-time for me too, just doing like general cleaning and stuff like that. And my wife actually helps me. She's technically an employee too. She helps me with taking pictures. Like she'll write down all the data per a snake as I'm taking the picture. And then when I sit down in front of my computer, I crop and edit the picture. And then I add it to my website using all the data that she wrote down for me, like the, the hatch date, the morph, the sex, the, all that information, the ID code that I assign it. So she does that. And then when we set up all the hatchlings, she'll actually write out their ID labels for me as I'm going through and figuring out what I'm hatching and figuring out the sex and everything. So that the process of setting up babies and getting babies on the website and taking pictures of them and everything goes a bit quicker with her helping me. So, technically, I guess I have, as of right now, I have like 2 part-time employees and one that's closer to full-time. It's not completely full-time, but pretty close. And I do a lot of the work myself. I know I'm kind of limiting myself a little bit with doing a lot of the work, but I love being hands-on. My favorite day of the week is when I go through and do my final cleaning for the week. Like tomorrow, well, I'm actually going to be starting it after we're done today. And then most of the day tomorrow, I'll be watering and cleaning about 500 snakes. And I love it because I can actually assess the health. I can check them out real carefully. I can put males in with females for breeding and stuff. And I like that. I didn't really get into this business all those years ago to sit in front of a computer or just be, doing YouTube videos and stuff all the time. I like to be hands-on with the animals. And I feel like by doing that, I have a better success rate with my clutches and just get better breeding success overall. I do all the feeding of every snake in the whole collection, and I do watering and cleaning with about probably like 30 to 40% of them overall. So yeah, it's and I like being hands-on, but like I said, if I hired somebody else to do that, I could get away from that. I could probably increase production if I wanted to, or at least have a little bit less workload on my plate. But yeah, like I said, I enjoy it, so I'm going to keep doing it.
BG Isle Reptile says, I bought my first snake from Garrick in 2010 in a few cents, and they're all bulletproof and great eaters and breeders. Thank you, Garrick.
Awesome. I can't imagine what that would have been from 2010. Probably, I don't even know. Might have been like single gene pastels or lemon blasts or I don't know, pewters, things like that. I mean, things have really changed a lot over the last 13 years.
All right, since we're in a little bit of market talk, Andrew asks, what are you think the best pickups are this year? Like, I don't know, you think it's the most exciting, or you think it's the best value for the trend, any of that?
That's hard to say. I mean, it really depends on your budget. Somebody that's got $1,000 to spend, I'm going to give completely different advice to somebody that's got $50,000 to spend. Mm-hmm. One of the projects that I'm really excited about getting into is the tornado project. I've been seeing some stuff on that online. I've actually talked to the producer of those about them, and I think I'm going to get on the wait list for those. Those look really, really cool, and I can just kind of envision in my mind's eye adding some certain colors to that and seeing what it does. I mean, it's a complete open book as far as like what you can do by adding different genes to it. What's a tornado clown going to look like? What's a tornado puzzle going to look like? I mean, who knows? When you're taking a pattern gene and you're mixing it with another pattern gene, all bets are off as far as what that's going to look like. And color is a little bit easier to kind of envision what it's going to look like, but pattern is going to be, I think there's some really cool potential with that.
Yeah, and I think people understand this, but because Justin invested early, he also saw the potential in tornado, and so like if he's like hyping it up too, that'll like increase interest, and then it's very easy to be like, oh, I also have some tornado.
Yeah. Justin's got an extremely good eye and a almost like a premonition about what's going to be the coolest combos to do. Just look what he's done over the years with like leopard clown and spot nose clown, and all the other things that he's done. And to be able to, if he sees something in that project, there probably is something to it. And I actually just by looking at it myself, I didn't even remember that Justin even had them. I know he did his YouTube video on them not all that long ago, but I kind of forgot all about that when I saw them online, and I'm like, oh, that gene looks really cool. Like I could really do some stuff with that. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Justin has them too. And so yeah, they're cool. Out of all like the high end projects, I mean, there's probably a lot of them that I don't even know about right now, but right. But that's one that's definitely caught my eye. As far as like investing in the lower end projects, I mean, I love DG clowns and DG pieds and things like that. I think getting specific genes into those projects still has a lot of legs in the project yet. And then, like a lot of other people, I'm trying to combine, multiple recessive genes into one animal. I made a clutch this year from trying to get Ultramel clown and Desert Ghost into one. Like I was trying to make clown double het Ultramel Desert Ghost. I'm working on like True Ghost pieds, a lot of different like 3 gene projects and some 4 gene as well. So I mean, any of those kind of projects I think are so great to get into. As far as like other single gene, it's really hard to say. I mean, Monsoon, that's got a lot of followers yet, obviously, but I haven't gotten into Monsoon yet. So to me, that seems like a gene that's going to be really hard to get the pattern to change drastically. The color, I think at least initially, the color changing, like adding Ultramel or Monarch or different things like that, I think is a pretty good way to go with that project. But I mean, there's so many different options out there. It's really hard to recommend like going into one specific project or another.
Bert says it was a pastel male.
Pastel male.
And
Okay.
he still has it.
Awesome.
Pride of place. That's beautiful. Thank you, Bert.
I love hearing that. Whenever I sell snakes, you just never know where they're going necessarily and what kind of life they're going to have. And I love hearing that. That snake is 13 years old at least, and still, in the same home and still doing great. That's the dream for all of my snakes. I wish they could all have happy, long lives,
Yeah, 100%. And then Beastmore says first morse was from you also. So you are the inception point for a lot of the chat right now. So we like that. And then have you seen the mimic gene? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I can't even believe I haven't brought that one up yet. I really like that a lot. I saw them in person at Daytona, and I've seen pictures of them. I've seen the picture of the mimic clown at, I think it was like 400 grams in the picture that I saw. That's a crazy gene, and that's actually the other one that I'm super, super excited about, and I can't wait to get my hands on one. I just think that something that goes from looking like it looks as a hatchling to looking like it looks as an adult is insane. Like, who would have thought that could even be possible? But I really, really like it a lot.
Yeah, to me, it's almost the perfect incomplete dominant gene. Like, it solves banana, but it's a desert ghosty ultramel as an adult. It's a perfect pet. It's a perfect combo. So I feel like it's going to be very hot whenever it releases.
Yeah, I got to get on a list of some kind.
Find a list.
I better start selling some more snakes so I can afford to buy into these different projects too.
Oh man. So speaking of selling snakes, how has your show market been? Because some shows are good, a lot of them are not good, but it's weird that it's spotty in the economy. I don't know what your local area's been like.
Yeah, I mean, there's several local shows up in Wisconsin, but honestly, I don't really do very many shows. I do NARBC at Tinley Park every show all the time, and I do. There's a scaled up expo. They have several different locations in Wisconsin. I do the one in Rothschild, which is basically a suburb of the town that I live in. And that one's 20 minutes from my shop. So I do that one too. Otherwise, I really don't do any other shows consistently. I like shows. The problem is the whole packing for the show, the drive to the show, if it's far enough away where you need a hotel, if it's a 2-day show or something, that whole process takes me out of my regular shop routine so much that I feel like if I did that, I mean, I could do a show every weekend somewhere. But I feel like if I did that, the work here would suffer and the animal care wouldn't be as good. So I would rather stay at my shop or at home or whatever and sell my animals online and just ship them, because some of these smaller shows you can go and sell 2 snakes the whole day, and it's okay, well, I spent 4 hours packing 60 snakes to take to the show. I drove 4 hours to get to the show, stayed in a hotel overnight, sold 2 snakes, drive back, unpack all those snakes. That just seems counterproductive for me. So for me, the value, to have a good show for me isn't necessarily about how much money I make at a show. It's mostly about how many snakes can I sell at a show. And the problem is a lot of these smaller shows, I'm just not guaranteed to do that, because if I take, back years ago when I had bearded dragons and chameleons and a lot of different geckos and things, you could, I did pretty well at shows because some of that's going to sell at every show. Now, I bring a few geckos, but otherwise I just have ball pythons. And if there aren't a lot of people looking for ball pythons going to that show, I'm not going to do well. And especially since, probably a quarter of all the other tables at the show could have ball pythons as well.
Or 80%.
Yeah. So, it just seems those smaller shows are kind of counterproductive for me, I feel. And I honestly, I like having my weekends free to do non-work related things so I can kind of recharge for the next week. That was during COVID when we couldn't do any shows. I actually, not that I enjoyed, having that happen to the world or whatever, but I enjoyed just knowing that I didn't have to do any shows and that I could just sit at home. And, we were selling snakes so fast, and I didn't have to go and drive to all these shows and try to sell them that way. And I had so many free weekends to just do whatever I wanted to do. It was really nice. So I just decided I'm not gonna do. I mean, if it wasn't so much effort, I'd like to do more shows, and I probably will start adding on a couple more shows in the future. But yeah, just kind of ever since COVID lifted and we started being able to do shows again, I've just never been able to get back into my regular routine of doing more shows.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same boat because I like shows too, but to me it causes like a cascade of work that like gets messed up. Like, somebody had to be fed early and somebody had to be fed late, and then I pushed back cleaning this and that, and then it's like I'm like 2 or 3 weeks later we're back on regiment, but then
another show
comes up.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it weekend to weekend. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I know people that do a show like almost every weekend, and it's like I don't know how you can do it. I don't know. Yeah, I can't do that. I need my weekends home to do other things and recharge my brain a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We're on the same page there. Like, I do like them for very specific reasons, like outreach and meeting people who literally don't know, couldn't find online. Like, they have no idea who you are, so you could meet them then. But like, it is very burdensome. So I'm like, one show a quarter. How about that?
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about Tinley is that it's such a huge show, and there's so many people there that I figured, well, I can go there and I can be in contact with so many people down there that I don't, a lot of those people, maybe not all the people that go to the little shows go to Tinley, but I can still, for giving up a weekend of time, I can meet so many people at a big show like that. And so I'd rather do that, twice a year. Like if there were 3 Tinleys a year, like I would probably just do those and I wouldn't even consider doing any other shows. I know they have Schaumburg in summer, but that's a little bit smaller show. It's not as well attended. I hope that show grows to be a bigger show. But
do you vend Schaumburg now, or are you waiting until?
I vended the first 2. I did not do it this year. We had vacations and stuff kind of planned, some kind of close to that, and it would have been kind of hard for me to get to it. And it's summer shows have never been good for me. Any show, like even if it's the same show circuit, if I do like their fall or winter and their spring show, they always go well. The summer show is always garbage. So it's just hard to do a show like that. Because I mean, at Schaumburg, the 2 times I've gone down there, I brought a lot of stuff with me, and to go down there and sell 20 snakes when I brought 200 of them is pretty disappointing. So and so I basically just have a rule that from June 1st until the end of August, I just don't do shows. That's kind of a new rule that I made up just this last year. But I think I'm going to stick with it and just not do any summer shows. Now, shows, my thinking is that shows down south probably do better in summer than shows up north. Up in Wisconsin and in the northern Midwest here, we don't have that many good weekends every year, like really nice weekends. And so if a nice, 80-degree sunny weekend comes along, people are going to want to get out on their boats or want to go, barbecue, picnic, whatever. Different things other than being inside. Down south, a lot of people down there are probably looking for excuses to get out of the heat.
Yeah, when it's 110,
exactly.
They're like, oh yeah, I'll definitely go to the reptile show.
Exactly. So I think summer shows down south. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just assuming that they probably do pretty well because of that. And summer shows up here do not do that well because of the weather and everything outside.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we just have a ton of shows. I think that's a problem, like the show number. But it does make sense because you kind of have like a shipping blackout, because it's so hot for a couple of months there. So like you kind of need a show unless you want to wait until it's not 110.
Right.
Nobody wants to fry your snake. So like I'm excited about winter shipping because it's not 110. So it's like much safer now for me to ship.
Same thing up here, but opposite, because wintertime is a real pain to ship. And so I mean, some winters are so cold that there's literally weeks that go by in between shipping opportunities, and a lot of breeders up in my area actually don't ship in the winter. Over the years, I've figured out how to properly pack my animals so that my survival rate overall with FedEx is probably 99.9% in the last 20 years when everything goes on schedule. So I've figured out, like I'm always on weather.com checking my temperatures, Memphis, and then wherever the recipient of the snake is going to. And I'm always checking those weather forecasts to make sure they're going to line up and I'm going to be able to safely ship. And, sometimes there's, I've had over a month go by where it's just been too cold, especially if the customer is in a cold climate too. Then it's on, like if I'm shipping to North Dakota in January, it's almost impossible.
Right.
We're gonna have to wait till late March or something. So it's a real challenge to be able to do that. But so at that time of year, in winter, shows for me would be more beneficial because it would allow me to unload some animals and not have to worry about the risk of shipping them.
So back to determining if a show is worth it. Is there it's about the quantity of animals, but is there like a dollar value? Like if you brought $100,000 for the snake and could sell 25,000, even if it was only 5 snakes, like would that be worth it, or is it I
would definitely like that show. I'd rather sell $25,000 worth of $400 snakes because I get more mouths to feed. But yeah, that I definitely would consider a very successful show. But that's kind of an extreme. I mean, I don't do 25,000 at a show unless it's Tinley. So the smaller shows up here, I'll sell, like I think the last show I did in my hometown here, I think I sold 15 snakes and it did somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. So that's kind of what's typical around here. And for me, a smaller show I feel is successful if I can sell 20 snakes or more, because 20 snakes will free up a significant part of my rack. So it'll free up, over a quarter of one of my racks. Where if I go there and I sell 3 snakes, which is what I did last June at the same show, I sold, I think it was 3 snakes and 2 geckos. I think I made like $400 or something like that. Like that was a waste. And that was the last straw. I'm like, no, I'm not doing summer shows anymore. So, so for me, but if I would probably vend a lot more shows if I would be guaranteed to sell at least 20 snakes at each show, no matter, and really almost regardless of what value they are. If I sold 20 snakes that were $200 a piece at a show, I'd be happy because I know that I freed up 20 spots in my racks.
Right. I agree. James asked, when do you decide a show is not worth doing? Like one bad time of the year for that show, or like do you cut a show off completely after 2 bad times or 3 bad times, or what's your
rubric? Cut a show off. I mean, the one that I did last summer where I sold 3 snakes or whatever, that was just kind of the final straw of summer shows entirely for me. And the other thing with summer shows is I'm the busiest that I am all year long in summer when I'm dealing with collecting eggs and hatching babies out and all that. So doing a show in summer leaves a lot of work left for me to do before and after the show. But yeah, I mean, I guess if a show has a history of being bad and every time you go there, you just don't do what you expect to do. And obviously you have to keep your expectations in check. But like if my goal is to sell at 20 snakes a show and I go to 3, 4, 5 shows in a row and I'm selling 4, 5 snakes at a show, I'm probably not going to really prioritize that one to go back to. So that's kind of how I look at that. I definitely am one to give shows more than one chance for sure.
Yeah, I think the issue is a lot of people are like, people need to show up and do poorly to build the markets because there's like a horse and carriage problem where you're like, if the vendors aren't there, people will not return, and then no one will be there, and then the last vendors will just like walk away and be bored. But like there's like it's not quite a zero-sum game, but your time isn't infinite and your own money isn't infinite. So how long do you dedicate to like trying to spruce up a market out of your own pocket, basically, is my question. I don't know the right answer to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with this local show too. I spent years hoping that there would someday be a show in my hometown so that I could actually go to it. And for the show, we get up at around 7 o'clock, head over to the shop at about 8 o'clock, grab the animals that I packed up the day before, drive 20 minutes to the show. I can get there by 9:15 and be set up by 10 because I only have 2 tables there. And then the show ends at 3, and I'm actually at home at my house then by 4 to 4:15. So I mean that's not bad. So I'm trying to give that show as much opportunity to be successful as possible. And also I realize that I'm a bigger name breeder going to this little show. So I'm hoping that I draw some attention and can have the show be more successful. Because I would love it if this show ended up being super successful and and I could sell 20, 30 snakes at every show there. It's still growing to that point, but the show promoters are doing a really good job. And, I try to promote the show when I'm able to. And,
is it a cold-blooded expo show?
No, it's a scaled up expo. It's a Wisconsin only show. I've done the cold-blooded expo in Minneapolis or Bloomington, I think it is, Minnesota. I used to do that show pretty consistently, and I haven't done it in a couple of years now, mostly because the dates just coincidentally fell on the same day as this local show. And I decided, well, I really feel obligated. I mean, I'm kind of like the big fish in this pond here. I kind of feel obligated to promote this show and event at this show. Plus, it's a lot easier for me just to do that versus driving over to Minnesota. So, I really, I haven't done the cold-blooded one in a while. I would like to do it again. We've had some excellent shows there, but again, it's one of those things where if I don't think that it's going to be necessarily worth it to me, if I'm not going to move enough snakes, I don't really want to do it. So, but I'm sure I'll go over there. I mean, I've got some, great friends over there. JSA Reptiles is right over there, and I'm good friends with those guys. And so Kyle Schran, there's a lot of people over there that I really like a lot. And so I like to go over there as much for the social aspect of it as the sales.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think tentpole vendors can actually make or break a little show in a lot of ways. Because if people, Andrew brings up Bob Vu and Tom Harbin, or maybe the children Harbins, not sure which ones, but if they're like, oh, I can go see Garrick and buy a snake, they might pick up some cocoa. They just bring more money to the room. The whole room gets more money, and they might buy a cage, and then that vendor can go buy a.
Oh, I lost audio.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, there you are.
I knocked my thing off. I think absolutely it does help. It's hard to be like, I expect Garrick to lose money so the whole room can make $5,000 more and just in the whole room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's get into some Morphe talk. How do you feel about carnivore now that you've had a chance to work with it and make some combos?
Yep, I've made a few combos with it so far. I like it. It's almost like a better leopard, I'm gonna say. It's similar. There's no. It's
not a bug in here. Sorry.
I was wondering what you're doing.
I'm being weird. Okay, go ahead. No, yeah, it does. The clown ones look leopardy, but the base morph doesn't look that leopardy. It looks kind of leopardy.
Pattern is fairly leopardy, but the color is much brighter and more intense. And some of the carnivore het clowns that I produced are really, really cool. I produced a firefly, and I think it was a pastel butter, and it just being hats, and they're hat clowns, and they're really cool looking. I didn't do much with it. Actually, I didn't produce any in 2023, but in 2024, I'm going to try to produce a few different combos. I want to see what it looks like in banana, and I've got a few other different ideas with it. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to unlocking some things with it and seeing what I can do.
Cool. Yeah, I remember your video where you first got the male. And you're like, the color difference is there, but then a lot of people are still like, oh, it's just a leopard. But to me, it does look different. I just don't know. We just got to show more. You have to show more stuff off, I think, to convince people.
Yeah. I gotta breed it to some other different projects too. The one that my original one was a het clown, so I just brought it into clown combo females. But I think I'm gonna do some pairings with some other things too, or at least make some some different types because I have a couple of carnivore clowns that I'm growing up that are almost ready to breed now too, and I might breed those to some different types of like multi-codon females to produce carnivore het clowns that have other genes in it, and that'll give me the opportunity to see what it looks like when you combine Orange Dream or banana or any yellow belly, asphalt, things like that to it.
Andrew asked how reactive do you think it'll be? Do you think it's going to react like a leopard or an acid or something? Or you think it'll act more like, I'm not even sure, its own thing? Because it does act kind of similar in clown. Like, are the other combos looking kind of like that? Leopardy?
I haven't really seen that many other combos because I bred my carnivore hat clown to all clown combos. So I really didn't produce a whole lot of carnivores that weren't clowns.
Okay.
So I've got to still see what happens when you breed it into some of those different things. But like like I said, I produced a firefly carnivore, a pastel butter carnivore, some regular carnivores, and some pastel carnivores last year. I think those are the only combos that I produced that weren't visual clowns. They're all het clowns, but not visuals. But yeah, I want to try to get like Orange Dream and some of these other different genes into it to see how it reacts, because I'd like to start seeing a bigger difference between a carnivore and a leopard. I can look at them, I can tell right away which ones are which genetic, like by looking at them. But I want to be able to show people more like a variety of like what these things can do by breeding them to different projects.
And carnivore is also dominant. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It'd be hilarious if they were both dominant but both allelic. so you could actually you should try that.
I know Barry Summerhays. That's where I got it from. He's over in the UK. He's produced some things that he thinks are carnivore leopards, like they're combos. Okay. And they're very cool looking. I'm not super familiar with how a super leopard looks, but I believe it looks different than a super leopard. So I think they're they could possibly be allelic. He's actually getting genetic testing done to prove that carnivore and leopard are actual unique genes, or to figure out how they're related. So it'll be interesting once he gets that information. He'll pass it on to me, I'm sure, and it'll be interesting to see what the actual testing shows.
Yeah, it'll be like genetic testing is in some ways like increase the velocity of stuff and maybe made people a little more weird about stuff, but also like solved lots of riddles. So it's just like the way things are going to be from now on. So it'll be interesting to see if those are the same.
Yeah, Pandora's box is open. We can't close it now. I know. It's going to be a part of our lives from here for all eternity.
It's fine. I in some ways I wish it had helped things better. You could have bought a double het male or a triple het male, bred it to it was clown pied hypo or something. You could have bred it to one and tested the hets and made your triples that way. But nobody's doing that really. They still want the best animals, which are visual double hets or double visual single het.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want it to go the slow route, although people can. It's just, it turns out the more powerful animals are better anyway, and which we already knew that. So it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of double visuals, we have another year of G-stripe clowns under our belts. What do you think about the project, where it's going? What are you most excited to add?
Well, I haven't really produced. I didn't really produce all that many of them in 2023. I know I produced a normal G-stripe clown female, which I kept, a spot nose G-stripe clown female, which I also kept. And I'm trying to think if I don't think those might be the only visuals that I produced. I had horrible odds. I used a visual banana G-stripe clown that I bred to a few double hets and double hets with some codons in it, and just didn't hit on any. I get 7 eggs in the clutch and I wouldn't have any in there. That happened a couple of times this year. So it was probably actually my worst year producing them since my first year producing them. So it's just really weird. But
that's a bummer. I mean, there was a bunch more on the market, so we got to see many more versions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping to get like acid into that project. I'm trying to think of what other combos that I've got going this year. I think I'm going to be breeding my I've got a pastel desert ghost clown. I think I'm going to breed to one of them just to get some, work on the triple. I've got some other projects in mind with that too, but I'm working on getting calico and yellow belly into it. So that should be this year. Orange dream, leopard. I think what other I'd like to get. I think I'd like to try to get hurricane into it just to see what a really busy pattern in there does. But yeah, I like the project a lot. Obviously, I'm pretty big on it, and I really think it can produce some really cool, unique things. It's just a matter of figuring out what other genes to get into it. But I'm really hoping to get a lot of different things into it. That's why I'm keeping back all these double visual females. I've got a pastel G-stripe clown female that should be ready to breed at some point in 2023, and a lesser. And I'm hoping to breed those with a few different, with a couple of males too, just to get some, some different genes into the project. Then I could take any kind of, crazy clown combo that I have and get it into it. Oh, GHI is another one that I'm working on getting into it. NG. It's so hard. Like, it's such a different looking pattern. It's really hard to imagine what some of these codom morphs are going to do to it. So, a lot of it's trial and error. When I first started the project, I actually bred what was it? It was a pastel lesser, a pastel lesser banana clown. I think I bred to a cinnamon genetic stripe, and it turned out that some of those genes that I added in there didn't necessarily help that project. Like, I kind of wish I would have done a different clown combo male with that cinnamon genetic stripe female. Because, some of the combination of all those genes together into a G-stripe clown doesn't necessarily look very good. Like, some of them you can't even really tell what the recessive morphs are in the snake. So I'm kind of backtracking on that project a little bit and trying to work some other genes into it. So
well, how do you feel about the cryptic G stripes or Krypton G stripes, where it's still a stripe but it's got like circles?
I've even seen that yet.
They're hot.
Okay.
I'm telling you, you got a bunch of like your Bongo Krypton or is G stripe that.
Yeah. That's actually something I've been considering over the last couple of years too, or over the last year. Like right now is when I'm planning all my pairings for 2024. So I spend, I basically go into the room and I get to play mad scientist for a while and figure out, okay, what would happen if I bred this male to this female? And I was definitely thinking of doing like a Krypton G-stripe or a cryptic G-stripe. It's
cool because you can still make, kikis or clowns, but like the Krypton one looks distinct, but from both, but it's cool. It's different. And so
I want to seek out those pictures of those because
there's one on Morph Market now with Desert Ghost in it too.
Okay. Huh. All right. Well, I will. I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, I thought that would be a pretty good project too. So yeah.
Cryptic Krypton is one of my favorite because it used to be like more expensive than the clown. Now they're less expensive, but I think they should be the same price as clown because it's like perfectly fun. Like you can make all the variants. You can make the clown version if you have the Krypton parents. It just gives you a lot of variety, and they're cool no matter what you're doing with the same genes pretty much.
And it's super easy to make new combos with them too, because if you've got some kind of crazy clown combo that's got 5 or 6 different genes in it or whatever, you can breed that to your Krypton and get clown combos and Krypton combos in it. And you can add a whole bunch of genes really quickly into Krypton or get Krypton versions of them.
Right. It's a hack. They should be much more expensive.
Yeah, I think so too.
For me. And they're cool because they look kind of like a puzzle, but not really because they're banded, but they have like a puzzle head. I don't know. It just seems like a win-win.
Yeah.
But the G-stripe version is also cool to me.
That's good to know.
All right. We're giving them tips.
Yep.
Come out.
I can, I've got a group of, I think I've got like 10 or 11 adult female Krypton combos with various genes in there. So I could pretty easily breed a G-stripe clown male to those, a couple of those females and get some nice.
I'm telling you, do it. It'll be awesome.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
I'll do that this year for sure. I'll when I'm doing my watering and cleaning today, once I get to that Krypton column, I'll mark 2 or 3 of them off for my G-stripe clown.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So when you go to do your breeding pairings, do you like sit in your room and like stare and like point, or do you go to a spreadsheet first and like think analytically what you should do? Like, how do you vibe with the pairing?
Yeah, I'm a little old school as far as like, putting information on like that on my computer. I've got a hatch chart that shows like the clutch number, the date laid, number of eggs, the male and female that produced it, the hatch date, the number of babies that hatched, and then the morph and sex ratio of all the babies. And then I also keep track of if there are any infertile eggs in the clutch. So I keep track of that. Otherwise, like, I don't have a spreadsheet with like all of my animals on there to figure out how to pair them. I basically go into the room and I look at each female and I figure out like, okay, what projects do I want to focus on? And I will write down on a piece of paper like all of the males that I want to use. Like this year, I'm only going to probably use, like a third of my clown males, just picked out like my favorite ones that I want to get more of. So I write all those down. And then I go through my females and I start assigning females to specific males. And then I just put a tally mark next to the male. And then once he gets up to about 5, then I back off on him and I'll work on different males. So I don't want to, at the end of figuring out all my pairings, I don't want to see that I put 12 females for one male. Yeah, 20. And so I try to keep it to 7 or less. But I mean, most of mine, like I said, are going to like 3 or 4, with a few exceptions where that might be like 6 or 7, a couple only 1 or 2. But yeah, I just like to go through and I kind of have an idea when I look at a female. I kind of have an idea what kind of male I can breed to it. And sometimes I'll go back to her later and like, oh no, this male is going to be better to breed to her. I want that project more than I want the original project. So yeah, it's not very scientific. It's just kind of knowing what I want to produce and figuring out how many females do I want to assign to each male. It takes a long time though, I'll tell you that. I mean, each one of my locations, my main location where I have like, I guess a lot of my lower end stuff, because I haven't been focusing on that much in the past year or so. And like I said, last year I only bred about 50 or 60 females there. That is a little bit easier for me to figure out. But at my second location where more of my high end stuff is, that can take like a full day to do. I spent probably 3 or 4 hours on it about a week ago, and over the next week, probably not too much this week anymore, but within the next couple of weeks, I'll go through all those and figure out what I want to pair with what. And I kind of also have to look and see what I have available yet from 2023, even 2022. I still have a ton of clown combos available. So I kind of decided I don't want to do pairings that's going to make more of what I have available right now. I kind of want to do pairings with like newer projects or higher end projects, and pairings I haven't done before to produce some new and unique things rather than just making more of what I already have. If I've got, if I have, 15 leopard clown combos, how many more leopard clown combos do I really need to make to satisfy the market? So that's kind of the main thing that I do. Like I just try to figure out, okay, what are the newer, more cutting edge males that I have, and just focus on breeding those. And so instead of producing, 65 or 70 clutches that have clown in it, maybe I only produce 30 this upcoming year, but they're with newer males and newer females, and I'm producing stuff that I haven't produced before. Other people may have produced them, but I haven't produced them yet. Like this was my first year producing Cypress clown combos. So I think I got maybe 4 clutches of those this year, and been super, super happy with what I produced.
Ton of color in Cypress. Clown combos.
Yeah, and Cypress is another one that I want to get into the G-stripe clown. It also does a ghost clown and ultra male clown, and I'm going to put that into a lot of different things. Like that and hurricane and just some of the little bit a little bit newer. I know none of those are super new, but they're newer than like leopard and spot nose and things. And also just trying to produce some like more common genes, but in new combinations. Like I produced a few years ago, I produced a spot nose, calico, yellow belly clown. And that thing was absolutely incredible.
You know what I call that, Garrick?
What's that?
The non-pay. It's like the not Pompeii.
Yeah, it's similar looking, but it's got almost.
It's better. I'll just say it. You don't have to say it. I'll say it.
I just hatched a couple new ones.
On your reel on YouTube?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm telling you, and also your calico is different than everybody else's calico because it's like the ringers, but they're also just like fuzzier and like granulated with the black and the orange, like in clown. The yellow belly calico version of yours is different. I own it. Other yellow belly calicos from other people. Yours is better. Sorry.
I love like that. I love that project. The calico, spot nose, yellow belly clown. Even just calico yellow belly clowns are really cool. But once you add that spot nose in there, it really makes the pattern go crazy. In 2022, I produced a banana calico spot nose yellow belly clown, and that thing is probably the best banana clown. It's definitely the best banana clown I've ever produced, and it holds up to anything I've seen that anybody's produced. It's just the colors on this thing, even at like 650 grams or whatever it is now, is just so bright and so intense. Hardly any black spots on it. I mean, the thing is just orange. It's awesome looking. So
that's why I've sworn off red stripe because you don't need it. You want to add color to your clown. You can get calico, which makes like a better like het for pet people.
Yeah,
to me.
Sure. Yeah,
to me.
Calicos are just cool. Like calicos and sugars, they're just a cool snake on their own. You don't need to add a whole lot to them to make them outstanding. Like I've got I'm going to be breeding a male orange dream calico asphalt this year to some different females, and that thing it looks awesome just on its own. Like if I made a super OD version of that, it's like game over. It's a perfect snake. It's so nice looking. The whites are really nice and high white, very black blacks, and really nice bright orange colors. And that's just the normal orange dream. If I can make it super, it's really pretty.
I feel like people are sleeping on calico as like a perfect combo animal, perfect recessive combo animal, and then like it makes attractive byproduct for pet people.
Yep.
And I say byproduct not in like a mean way, just like the extra males. Well, they're perfect for pets. So like $400, $200. Like it's not $0 like some of the poor males are.
Yep. I mean, my whole thought process as far as my business goes is I don't necessarily need to be the one producing the most expensive snakes out there. I want to produce snakes that people want. And so that's done. I've had to experiment with a ton of different things to get combos that I think are just visually attractive. I mean, if I sell a snake for $400, I'm pretty happy. I mean, I can't get rich off of that, but unless I sell enough of them. I'd rather sell a pretty $400 snake when it's 2 months old than sit on a snake that's $1,000, but I sit on it for a year and a half before it sells. To me,
slow clap. I agree 100%. That means like somebody wants it a lot, right?
Yeah.
They'll take care of it. They'll give it a nice cage,
Yep. Like with bananas, a normal banana as a baby, awesome looking. As an adult, it's not that great. But over the years, I've been experimenting with adding specific genes into bananas to make the best looking bananas. And just and calico is one of them. Calico, yellow belly, leopard, Enchi, some of those different genes, especially if you start combining them, make just an awesome looking banana. And I think blackhead is another one. There's just certain genes, you got to go through those experimental processes of figuring out what genes are going to match up the best with other genes to make a really pretty snake. I guarantee if I went to a bigger show and I had 20 of the bananas that I'm capable of producing on my table and they were all like $350 to $500 a piece, I guarantee they'd sell because you just look at them. It's like, well, that snake is cooler looking than the snake on the other table over there. And people want stuff like that as pets.
Yeah, it's sort of like a unfortunate byproduct of like the double, triple het craze, like making them. We've made a bunch of males that aren't necessarily that visually appealing to pet people.
Yeah, a pastel that's triple het for whatever, and it's like, okay, but it just looks like a pastel. Yeah, that's pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of males that aren't visually appealing, how do you have a wholesaler? Do you use a wholesaler? Are they full? This is like the question of the day.
Well, I have some lower end wholesale stuff available right now. I actually just made a Facebook post yesterday. I had over the years I've wholesaled through many different people, and I have one guy who typically buys like everything I produce. Like during the hatching season, I just come up with all the wholesale stuff that I don't want to retail, and I just send him the list what I want for him, and he would just send me a payment for them, and I pack them up and ship them. And he hasn't really been taking much this year, so I've been kind of sitting on. I think I've got like 60 snakes that are like double head ultramalpides and things like that, like males, just stuff that I don't really want to retail, and just. Yeah, it's the wholesale stuff's been a little bit harder to move this year than in past. I really haven't reached out to any of the big dealers either to try to move them. I would rather wholesale. Like I've had several people email me from that post that I did yesterday requesting lists. So I'd rather sell those snakes like 15 to 20 snakes to one person and 15 to 20 to another, rather than just pack them all up and ship them to a big company where they're going to all end up in pest. The people that are contacting me are people that want to take them to shows, and because they know I don't have time to go to every single show to sell all these wholesale animals. So it's but I mean it's definitely a problem. Like I'm trying not to produce wholesale stuff, and this year I produced the smallest number of wholesale animals because I was very deliberate with my pairings this year and really try to produce the stuff that I wanted to produce for myself and things that I thought would sell well. So I just didn't do the volume of wholesales. Like I probably produced, I don't know, 4 or 5 normal ball pythons this entire year. And that's like last year I probably produced 40, or 50. I mean, normals, not including like the double hets that are normal, things like that. But, I don't produce that much normal, true normals or just normal pastels or Mojaves and things like that.
Yeah. It's been a struggle because like you can go on Kingsake and see who has ads up to buy, and they're really like most of them have dried up. Like Cal Zoo doesn't have an ad up anymore, and Northwest Zoological doesn't have an ad up anymore. And you're like, and I'm sure if someone messaged them that has sold to them in the past and was like, please take these 40, they might like do you the service, but it's definitely slowed down like what they'll take and how much they'll give you for it. So that's like why we started doing the auctions, because then people can like pick up a couple for themselves, a couple for their table, and then like everybody's happy at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about auction type of stuff too, and I just don't have the time for it. I'd love to auction off a lot of my stuff and just set a minimum bid, and whatever it sells for, it sells for. I'd be open to doing that. I just don't have the time.
Come on, it'll be fun. I'll make a show just for you. No competition, just Garrick.
Just bring out like 100 random snakes and.
Yeah, that's how it works. And you're just like, do you want it? And it's 2 hours or maybe 3, and then then you ship them the next week, and they'll be like, bye, buddies.
I might have to look into doing that.
Send me an email. I'll put you on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of snakes to move.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because auctions like are an indication that the market is softer, right? Because we're not sure what to price it at to make it move effectively.
Yeah.
Right. But it's fine to me. This is how it's got to be for the market to keep going. We have to find the price.
Yeah.
For the buyer.
That's been the hardest thing is pricing the snakes. Like when I hatch something out and I don't automatically know what the price is, I look on Morph Market and I find something that's either the same or equivalent. And if there's multiples there, I'll try to price mine right in line with those. I don't want to be the cheapest person out there. I try not to be the most expensive person out there. However, I can't keep track. Like right now on my website and on Morph Market, I have approximately 750 snakes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep track of the current prices on all those. So like if I put a snake up for sale and 3 months later it's still sitting there, when I put it up for sale, I was like right in line with everybody else. And then I go and check and say like, well, why I'm not even getting an inquiry on this. And I check, it's like, oh, that's because this guy's $1,000 or everybody's $1,000 cheaper than me now.
Yeah, the velocity's gotten very fast in the last 3 months or something.
Yeah, and I can't keep up with it. So like
Right.
I guess I don't know. I'm open to any reasonable offer on anything.
Reasonable offer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I've had people come with just like, I'll give you $200 for this $1,000 snake. It's like, don't even, why are you even wasting my time with that? But if somebody comes along and says, well, there's these on Morph Market going for this price, can you match that? Oh, the worst thing I can do is say no. I mean, and chances are I won't say no. So it just it's. I'd rather do that than to have to keep up and to keep adjusting my prices.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like constantly adjusting prices it's not good, because if you have a customer that buys a snake at a certain price and then
right.
a month later you've knocked 30% off, they may see that and they may never contact me about it or anything. So I'd probably say, well, since that happened, if you ever want to get another snake, let me know. I'll keep that in mind and I'll give you a discount of some kind. But a lot of people might just kind of resent it and not even contact me about it. So then, and I don't want people to have a bad feeling about me or my business. So it's hard. I try to keep one price steady for the whole year, but it just it can't happen with ball pythons. I mean, right. I look at some of these prices, like, look at the way dreamsicles have gone down in price in the past year. And I'm looking, like, I got a dreamsicle from 2022 left yet. And I'm like, why hasn't she sold? And I looked like, oh, that's because everybody else on here is $500 cheaper than I am. And it's like, that's because when it comes down to it, price is what people look at first and foremost. And it's so hard to keep up with all those prices.
So everybody in chat, if you see stuff from Garrick and you like it and you just feel like it's a little, just send him a message. He'll work it out.
Worst thing I can do is say no, and most likely we can come up with an agreement on a price.
Do you still do your mailing list? Like, I know you started the Patreon this year to be like the first line of messages. I don't think I've gotten an email from you, but maybe I missed it.
We do a newsletter from time to time. I don't know if we've done one real recently, but I mean, we'll have like our Black Friday holiday sale thing is coming up quick. Newsletter, people that are subscribed to our newsletter usually get a little bit early access with that. Patreon members get access to our sales and everything, or like our coupon codes before anybody else does, so they get first crack at all the snakes that I have. But mailing lists usually get it before the general public gets it. Mm-hmm. So it is definitely beneficial to be on the mailing list. Being a Patreon member is obviously the most beneficial. It's I don't know if I don't handle the mailing list aspect of the business, so I don't really know when the last one went out. But
but the mailing list still exists if people don't.
Exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you like Patreon? Do you feel like it's?
I like it. I mean, my biggest thing about doing Patreon is that I didn't want to do it unless I could devote some time towards it, because I want people to feel like they're getting value for what they're giving me. And so it took a while for me to be convinced to do it. And we set it up in a way that I could pretty easily give content without taking a whole lot of time. Like, I do a lot of exclusive videos. Like, I'll just be working in the shop and I'll see something cool or something I want to talk about, and I'll just shoot like a 3 or 4 minute video on it. And we send that to the Patreon members. And I think that people get a lot of good information about it. I also show a lot of the babies that are hatching. Like, I'll say, well, this is what hatched this week. And I'll do like a 4 or 5 minute video just showing entire clutches that I hatched out. And so I think people like that. I mean, our members seem to, for the most part, enjoy it very much. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying it. I mean, I wish that there was a way for me to interact with people a little bit more, but the fact is my time is really limited. So that's kind of why I drug my feet on setting up a Patreon for such a long time, because mm-hmm. I want to make sure that I'm able to put enough into it. So my main way of putting into it is doing all these exclusive videos. I also do, the Patreon members get to see my YouTube videos before YouTube does. And we also do a monthly Zoom call with all the top tier members. So, and then that's recorded and everybody can watch that. So that's been good too. We do that about once a month for about an hour, and get some people asking good questions and everything. So yeah, overall, I do like it.
Yeah, people wanted me to do a Patreon for this, but I'm like, y'all are all Patreon to death, right? I don't know how much Patreon, but like, if the animal sales are part of the incentive, and you're doing a giveaway every week, and it's like, that's more fun, I think, and you get some education out of it. All right, Troy brought it up. Talk to me about the Black Friday sale this year. Do you have the details squared away yet?
Well, you'd think I would, only a week and a day away, but no, we don't. We're leaning towards starting it early. It seems like a lot of people are starting their I get ads from like Best Buy and everything coming in my email every single day. Their Black Friday's been going on for like a week already, and so we're thinking maybe starting it a few days earlier than normal. Normally we started on Thanksgiving night, like at midnight. I think we're going to probably start a little bit earlier. We actually haven't figured out the exact details of the level of discount yet, but it's going to be pretty significant. It'll, if you ever want to buy a snake, right now is going to be the time to do it. But the hardest thing about doing the Black Friday sale is it's late November. Well, we'll be by then here in Wisconsin. Our temperatures, like our highs, that the week after Thanksgiving are supposed to be, I think, highs in the 20s. And it makes it really hard to ship. So when you have your biggest week of shipping for the entire year and it's really cold, it's just really hard to ship all that out in a single week. And so I would love to do like a Black Friday, like in July or something, when I know it's easy for me to ship. I can just put them in a box. I can pack all my shipments in the morning, leave them stacked up in the office, and FedEx just comes and picks them up.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm just sleeping, apparently.
I thought you were just being really, really still. But anyway, it's hard to ship. When I have like 30 boxes going out in a day, and each box needs multiple heat packs, to get those heat packs all warmed up and to get them in the box, but only right before FedEx comes, because the heat packs do great when they're outside in winter, but when they're in a sealed box in my shop where it's 80 degrees, those heat packs could cook the snake. So I try not to seal the boxes up until as close to when FedEx is going to be there as possible. The problem is, if you got 30 shipments, that could take a half an hour just to seal up all those boxes, which means the ones you did first are sitting there for quite a long time. So yeah, it's shipping with Black Friday is really, really difficult. Also, all my winter shipping is really hard too, because I may only have one day every like 2 or 3 weeks that's warm enough to ship. So I've had days in February where I've shipped out like 40 boxes in a single day, and that's just a nightmare to get all that packed up and to get all those heat packs going and to be able to do that all in a day. But it's like, well, but today's going to be the only day in this month that I'm going to be able to ship. So I have to do it. So it's definitely hard. But anyway, going back to the Black Friday sale, yeah, it'll be coming. Just watch, sign up for my newsletter. Watch.
I'm still here.
Okay. Just watch. I'll do Facebook posts, Instagram posts. It'll be pretty obvious that we're doing the sale when we're doing it. But definitely subscribe to my newsletter through my website, and that'll alert you in plenty of time. But yeah, we'll probably be doing it, I would say, early this upcoming week, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it does make sense to like do a spring sale instead, like a tax sale, which I think you do those too.
We normally do that too. Yeah, we'll have like 2 or 3 bigger sales every year. And the nice thing about that is it allows me to be able to move a lot of animals in a short period of time. Like I'm expecting to sell, 100 snakes over the next week with the Black Friday sale. And most of those sales that we do like that, we can sell quite a few snakes and free up a lot of space, make space for new babies that are still hatching right now, and just get the racks ready for next year. So those sales, plus it's a huge influx of money into our accounts too, and that can float us through. Like the holidays are always, like from a week before Christmas until just after New Year's, that's kind of a dead zone for selling stuff because most customers realize that I can't ship during that time. Right. And, busy with the holiday stuff, I try to take a little bit more time off. So, we don't really make a whole lot during those couple of weeks. So having a big sale prior to that makes sure that you have plenty of money in your account to pay all your bills and to do everything you need to do, to keep business flowing. Because, business like this, we do a lot in sales, but we also have a ton of expenses too. I spend $2,000 a week just on rodents, and that's in addition to what I produce. So like just that alone is a huge amount. And, we just all the expenses that we have, we need to generate a lot of sales on a regular basis in order to make all this work properly.
Yeah. Sometimes cash flow is more important than anything else.
Yeah.
It's funny that my camera died. So I guess the computer's telling me it's the end. I don't know. It's still all working. It just doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
But we're about done. All right. Thank you, Garrick. You can't see me, but I'm here in spirit.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who tuned in.
And then I don't know. If you want to do an auction, I'm totally down. I think you'll do great and get lots of cash flow. We'd love that. And thank you all to all the cool super chats. So many super chats. Thank you. Yeah, I do need high spin. It's not the internet. It's just like my phone crashed because I use my phone as a camera. Mm-hmm. But we did it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.